Hello everyone, welcome to Poesis e-learning and certification services. In this video session, we are going to learn how to set up Raspberry Pi OS. Raspbian is virtual machine on a Windows system. Raspbian is official Raspberry Pi OS based on Linux Debian distribution. It is optimized to run on resource-constrained systems. So let's get started. Before we set up virtual machine, let me explain you what is virtualization. Virtualization is the process of creating virtual version of computing, storage, and networking resources. In the context of virtual machines, virtualization allows a guest OS to run on top of a host OS. A virtual machine is a self-contained environment for guest OS and its applications. A thin layer of software called hypervisor manages dynamic allocation of hardware resources to VMs. As depicted in this picture, an operating system's job on a computer is to manage sharing of hardware resources amongst applications. OS provides controlled access to applications to use CPU, memories, and ports. A hypervisor allows applications running inside VMs to use same resources while residing in their own isolated environment as if they are running on a real physical computer. Windows 10 comes with a built-in hypervisor, Hyper-V. However, we are going to use an open source solution, Oracle Virtual Machine Virtualbox. Virtualbox version 6.0 onwards can be used with Hyper-V running. Before we download and install Oracle VirtualBox on our computer, we need to verify whether hardware virtualization is enabled or not. And for that, we are going to run systeminfo command in a terminal window. Let me show you how. Let us look at Hyper-V requirements section. VM monitor mode extension enabled, yes. Virtualization enabled in firmware, yes. Second level address translation, yes. Data execution prevention available, yes. If disabled, we would enable it from BIOS setup. In the next step, we'll go to this link to download VirtualBox to install it on our computer. So here we are. We can download VirtualBox 6.1.18 for Windows host from here. Let me click and click on Save File. Once downloaded, click on File Name to run it. Click on Next. Continue with default settings. Click on Next. Click on Yes. Click on Install. Our installation has been completed successfully. Click on Finish. So here is front-end user interface of Oracle VM Virtualbox Manager. It's an easy to use application. We have a couple of tools available here. We can add a virtual machine, or we can create a new virtual machine. We can import, export, and here we have user preferences. Virtual machines, once created, would appear in this panel. In the next step, we are going to download desktop image of Raspbian OS from official Raspberry Pi website. Let me take you there. So from this website, we can download Raspberry Pi desktop OS for PC and Mac systems. The same OS image can also be used as virtual machine. To download this Raspberry Pi OS image, you will have to click here on this download button. Click on Save File. Take a note of file size. The file size is 2.9 GB, so it's going to take lots of time. I'll pause recording and will resume the recording once download has been completed. Okay, my Raspberry Pi OS download has completed. Here is the file. Let us go to Oracle VirtualBox now to start creation of Raspbian virtual machine. Click on New to create a new virtual machine. Assign a name to it. Take a note of machine folder. So this is where our virtual machines will be stored on local computer. Select type of the machine. Our type is Linux. We'll select version. Select Debian 64-bit here. Click on Next. The next step is allocation of RAM. Let's allocate 4 GB. Default is 1 GB. More RAM means better performance, but try to stay in the green zone here. Click on Next. Hard disk allocation. Select Create a virtual hard disk now. Click on Create. Select the default format, Virtualbox disk image. Click on Next. Here, this decision is a tricky one. Storage on physical hard disk. The space allocated to virtual machine to keep its file on physical hard disk. There are two options, dynamically allocated and fixed size. On a good performance system, dynamically allocated is recommended option. Here, the space consumed on physical drive will grow as the file size grows. In case of fixed size, the entire space will be occupied as soon as the allocation is done. So let's go ahead with the dynamically allocated option. Click on Next. Size. Default is 8 GB. Let's allocate enough space, somewhere around 20 GB. Click on Create. So our virtual machine has been created. We'll make a couple of other settings. Click on Settings. Click on System. Go to Processor tab. Here we'll select number of CPUs allocated to virtual machine. Once again, more number of CPUs, better performance. Let us go for 2 CPUs. Once again, try to stay in the green zone. Go to storage option. Here we'll select OS image. Click here. Click on choose a disk file. We'll go to the folder where disk file was downloaded. Select the file, click on open. The file has been selected. Click on OK. So all the settings have been done. Now we can click on this green arrow to start our virtual machine. The image is selected. Click on start. Select graphical install. Here we have an option to select language and configure keyboard. Let's go ahead with British English. Okay, disk partition. Select guided. Use entire disk because we are going to allocate entire space to our virtual machine. Click on continue. In this space, hard disk will be formatted. No need to worry because this is a virtual hard disk space allocated to VM. So click on continue. All files will be stored in one partition. Click on continue. Now we have a summary of our selections here. Click on continue. Click here. Click on continue. Our system is getting installed now. Let me pause recording to save time. Okay, so setting up the system took around 2 minutes, and now we have an option to choose Grub bootloader. Select yes and click on continue. Select the drive, virtual disk created for our VM, and click on continue. This is the last screen. Finish the installation. So our virtual machine installation has completed. Let's click on continue. So post installation, our virtual machine will reboot automatically, and then you will have an option to select default OS. If not selected, it would automatically select and boot up. So we have a welcome screen. Welcome to Raspberry Pi desktop. Great. So our virtual machine with Raspbian OS desktop is ready for use. Let us set up a couple of basic things. First, click on Next to get started. Select country, India. Language, English. Time zone, I'll go ahead with Kolkata. Use US keyboard. Click on Next. We'll go ahead with default password for Raspberry Pi, and that is Raspberry. We'll click on Next. I'll skip update software because this takes long time. Our setup has completed. Click on Done. So Raspberry Pi OS Raspbian is ready for use. Let me show you how to shut down your machine. Click here, click on Shutdown. Once again, click on Shutdown. Okay, we have properly shut down our machine. So to start the machine, select it, click on Start to start it. Once your work has been completed, properly shut it down. So in the next session, I'll share more information about Raspbian and its features. I hope you enjoyed this session. So stay tuned and stay in touch. Happy learning.